All right, everybody, welcome back to the Tray X Conference, Excellence in Sterilization and Storage. I'm your host, Bobby Parker, for the day. Thank you for spending a Friday with us and, investing in your education in sterile processing. We've got a great session lined up for you here. Before we dive into that, though, just another thank you to our event sponsors for the day, Carl Storz, ChemDAC, One Tray, MMIC, and DSI. You can find some information that's been provided to you by those event sponsors in the downloadable resources window on the right side of your screen. All of the sessions for today's conference are approved for continuing education credit. And so in that downloadable resources window, you will also find the link to get your CE certificate. So towards the end of today's session, make sure to click that if you're interested in getting your CE certificate. If you've missed one from today, don't worry about it. We'll make sure to get that link to you. We always send a conference wrap-up email at the end of the day that'll have all of that information. So don't sweat it if you've missed one throughout the day. Well, to this afternoon's session, depending, I guess, what time zone you're in, this session is called Guidelines for Storing Surgical Instrument Trays. We've got a great speaker with us, Ian Loper. Ian is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at DSI, and he's going to be walking us through the industry compliance standards for instrument storage. Now, sterile storage, really important consideration. We don't want to go through all of the steps that it takes to get an instrument sterile and then mess it all up in the sterile storage room by getting holes in our trays or something of the like. And then there's also an important conversation to be had about how do we make the most effective use of our space. I don't know any SPD out there that has an abundance of sterile storage space. And so really important topic to be diving into today around optimizing that sterile storage space in a way that's compliant for storing surgical instruments. So with that introduction, let's go ahead and get this conversation started. Join me in welcoming in Ian Loper to the virtual stage.
How we doing?
All right, Ian, things are good. We're excited. I'll let you run with it from here.
Yeah, let's do this. I appreciate the intro. Ian Loper, DSI. I've been with DSI for about 11 years. I've been in the storage equipment business for 26 years. So a lot of experience. And I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences in the SPD, in the OR here today with the group. I am the vice president here at DSI, but I'm going to take a very neutral position for the sake of today's educational experience. So I'm going to, again, be very objective. I'm going to take a very neutral position. We do represent DSI. I've had a good run with DSI the last 11 years, and I feel like we've got a good team, and they've helped me put together this presentation here today. But again, from a neutral position, and I really want to kind of be a coach today. I've coached throughout my career, both in professional state, but also in sports and the youth, and kind of see myself as a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach at times. And but I also want to be kind of a peer today and kind of just look at it from a preview from a peer group perspective. So let's jump into it. We're going to talk about kind of the overall playbook, and then, we want to talk about a game plan. And so, going forward, this is a CE approved presentation. So again, it's a very neutral presentation, and it is approved. So at the end of today, you'll get a CE credit. As it relates to the playbook here, right? So, or the rule book. We're going to jump into it real quick with a poll. And we've got 5 polling questions today that is going to kind of set a nice baseline for us. And we want everybody's engagement, because if you are engaged, you will have, we will ship you one of our scrubs. He's our mascot. And we will ship you one of our scrubs mascots, and we want your engagement. So your engagement is very much welcome. The first question is, which of the following presents the greatest challenge to maintaining sterile storage compliance and efficiency in your department? We've got A, limited space or shelving capacity. B, frequent stacking or wrapped or containerized sets. Inefficient traffic flow between processing and storage areas. And D, disorganized shelving or unclear system for locating items. So what's the biggest pinch point in your department? Think about it here. We need your engagement. I think there's at least a couple hundred people on here today. So we've got A, B, C, and D. Space? Is it stacking? Is it workflow? Or is it just overall organization? I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds here. You guys busting at the seams? Bottlenecks and congestion as it relates to workflow? Option C, stacking. Option B, just overall organization. And once I turn this page here, we're going to get our poll and we will see what everybody's thoughts are from a percentage standpoint. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Moving on. All right, here we go. 76% is space, 13%, 14% is stacking, 0% is workflow issues. Okay. And 10% is overall organization. Space, that is not a surprise. Stacking, 15%, kind of 80-20 rule in a way, looking at the numbers here. So space, we're going to talk about space, how to maximize your cube, maximize the square footage in your department. Stacking, we're going to talk about whether or not you can stack, whether or not you should stack, and see what the guidelines are, what the rule book is, and see what our game plan is going to be around stacking. And then overall organization, we're going to talk about that here today as well, in terms of maybe labeling, just finding and locating your trays, and just being much more efficient with your time. So, all right, the rule book, the gold standard, and the first portion, first like 5 slides, I'm going to read the rule book, the guidelines to achieve compliance. We're going to jump into AAMI, the Joint Commission, AORN, HSPA, and some of the manufacturer IFUs. From an AAMI perspective, compression of packages can force air and microorganisms into the package contents. So this is a big one. People think of stacking, they think of tears. Okay, wet loads. Compression of packages can force air and microorganisms into packaging. This is the hidden problem, okay? It's easy to see tears, it's easy to identify a small hole, but these microorganisms are a real problem when it comes to stacking wraps. That's the problem, it's the wraps, okay? From an AAMI perspective, you can stack rigid containers too high. From an IFU standpoint, from all the manufacturers, it's recommended for no more than 2 rigid containers stacked. From a blue wrap standpoint, we've got issues. Second bullet point, again, this is ST 7911.1.1. Stacking can result in damage due to wrap caused by undue pressure from the weight. Sterile items should be positioned so that packaging is not crushed, bent, compressed, or punctured. Sterile items should be handled in a manner that avoids dragging, sliding, crushing, bending, compressing, or puncturing the packaging, or otherwise compromising the sterility of the contents. Okay. Also, just of note, as it relates to some of the other IFUs, 25 pounds, when you are stacking rigid containers, don't exceed 25 pounds. I believe that's down to the container. And then when you're stacking too high on the container front, you can't exceed it. It's all about stability from the readings that we've found and the findings we've found from some of these guidelines. It's all about stability, 25 pounds. And as it relates to the blue wraps, it's highly recommended and or the rule book and industry guideline to not stack. And we're about to further build our case here. Okay, the Joint Commission, they rely heavily on IFUs. Failure to protect from contamination. Surveyors look for evidence that sterile supplies are protected from contamination and that packaging integrity is maintained. Again, IFUs is heavy from a Joint Commission perspective. They lean heavily on the manufacturers. And so we pulled that information. It's here in the next few slides. And again, from a Joint Commission standpoint, the facility must demonstrate compliance at the time of the survey, and they need to comply with manufacturer IFUs. So depending on which containers you guys use, Case Medical, One Tray, AscuLab, you name it, you've got to know your IFUs, and Joint Commission relies heavily on those IFUs during the audit. They also have a position on maintaining proper spacing, 8 inches off the floor, 2 inches from the walls, 18 inches below sprinklers, okay? That's also an OSHA requirement. These are some good learnings. I'm sure you know them. If you don't, we're gonna get into further detail here from a overall compliance standpoint, but that's where the Joint Commission stands. As it relates to the IFUs, we pulled Cardinal, Kimberly-Clark, Healthmark, Halyard, and here we go. First one, Cardinal, general industry practice, and Amy, ST79, discourage stacking wrap trays that could compress or damage the sterile barrier. Kimberly-Clark, stacking trays can result in damage to the wrap. Healthmark, pressure from excess weight, avoid placing wrap trays beneath heavier items. Halyard, avoid compression, bending, or sharp contact with other trays or shelves. Basically going back to Amy. So Joint Commission is talking about IFUs from the manufacturer. Manufacturers are referring back to Amy, and it's like this feedback loop of, you know, let's lean on kind of the other accredited governing body, and ultimately we feel it's Amy standards, and we're about to get into HSPA and AORN here as well. But some of this is going to be quite repetitive, and Amy seems to be holding the holy grail as far as industry standards and guidelines. Moving on, HSPA, what are their recommendations? Bottom shelf should be minimum of 8 inches off the floor. Why is that? That's cleaning, okay? You've got to be able to clean the floors. There's splash, there's chemicals that jump up. We've got to protect the contents. You've got to be able to clean underneath your shelving, hence the 8 inches off the floor. Bottom shelf must be solid, okay? That's going to create a barrier between the splash and your wrap or rigid container. Solid top shelves will help protect sterile items from dust. So from an HSPA perspective, a dust cover, whether that is a proper dust cover that is literally not used as a shelf, but a cover covering the section of storage, or a liner that is used at the very top and most likely all throughout the storage system. So you've got to have liners. That's kind of a baseline. Whether you have a proper dust cover, that is a little bit in the gray area, but solid top shelves will help protect sterile items from dust. All shelves must be cleaned regularly. How is that defined? I don't know. Regularly could be every week, every couple weeks, every 3 weeks. I guess it just depends on how dusty and dirty your department is, but that leaves a lot for interpretation. I mean, at one's house, we clean once a week. I would assume that would be a bare minimum, and I would say regularly would be probably once a week. I don't know if that's happening, but HSPA recommends that you clean regularly. Wrap trays should not be stacked on top of each other. These are words that are written from sources that we pulled from online, ChatGPT, and very well-known publications. And so that is, in parentheses, what is written. Wrapped trays should not be stacked on top of each other. Okay, got it. HSPA, kind of going back to Amy. AORN, packages should not be crushed, bent, compressed, or punctured. Same thing. What do you see off to the right? That's a pretty extreme scenario. That looks like it could be a transport cart of some sort that is out of compliance. Avoid stacking sterile packages unless specified by the manufacturer's instructions. Again, IFUs, AMI, Joint Commission, HSPA, AORN, really pretty consistent across the board in terms of their position and recommendations around handling trays and blue wraps, as well as rigid containers. Rigid containers, too high. They say a couple. For me, a couple, that means 2 and 25 pounds. And so you can stack rigids, you can't stack blue wraps. We're going to get a little bit deeper into detail on why. What are the risks and why does it matter? Stacking wrap trays can cause perforations or holes. Obviously, loss of sterility can occur due to compression or stacking. Compromised sterility due to improper storage can delay surgical procedures. That's a bottom line cost to the hospital, a delay in surgical procedures. That's a problem. Compromised patient safety issue and compliance violations can result from improper storage, okay? Right here, we're talking about patient safety. We're talking about delays in the OR. We're talking about reprocessing trays. There's a cost that adds up every single day. And by the end of the year, the numbers are pretty crazy, to be honest. And we're going to jump into some numbers here shortly. Risk to employee safety, lifting heavy trays that are stacked, pinch points. I don't know about you. I've seen a lot of heavy trays that are stacked, and most often than not, you're moving the top 2 trays to pull a bottom tray, and then you have to put the other trays back. And there's a lot of like reorganizing, kind of like a Rubik's Cube type of process where you're just moving other trays to get to another tray. And there's a lot of safety issues from an employee standpoint. So increase in operating costs, rescheduling procedures, reprocessing. About to jump into that a bit. Those are all just clutch areas of a department that you do not want to reprocess. You do not want to reschedule from an OR perspective, and from a hospital business bottom line and operating cost, that's just a problem. So let's jump into the next slide. What's the pathway? What is the process? And every department is a little bit different. But just generally speaking, you've got prep and pack, it gets wrapped, it gets handled, it gets transported, this tray, gets sterilized, it gets taken out, then handled again, put onto a transport cart, handled again, put into storage, handled again when pulled for a case, and then handled again, put into the case cart, then handled again in the OR. At a minimum, these wrapped trays are handled 6 times. They're touched 6 times. And there are systems out there that minimizes the handling of actually touching the blue wraps. And you can use a kind of like a cafeteria tray. Once it's out of the sterilizer, you put it on this cafeteria tray, and you no longer basically touch the blue wrap. That is going to reduce handling the blue wraps, okay? Is that going to reduce you stacking? No, it just depends on what kind of storage equipment and system that you have in place. But the event-related issues that what we've found, and you could come up with your own assumptions and maybe your own studies, and maybe that's a key takeaway here, is let's identify when and where these holes are happening. Are they in the 2nd stage of handling, the 3rd stage of handling? Ultimately, they're found probably up in the OR. So you got a reverse kind of path from there, right? So you go in the clean elevator, you go back, and then it goes back to storage, and then it goes back to a transport, and then it goes back into, a couple other steps. But it's like, what is that process? The holes are being created somewhere. Is that around the case cart? Is that around the transport? Is that the storage? Do they start off with holes? I don't know, but it's something that needs to be probably a deeper dive analysis for every sterile processing department, identified and fixed, because Pulls are a problem, and it costs the hospital a lot of money. So with that, let's do another poll. Look like we received some pretty good engagement. Again, if you engage and vote, if your vote matters, you will get a Scrubs DSI mascot shipped to your hospital. And just, you could ping me on LinkedIn and send me your shipping address and information, and I'll hit you up and get you all dialed in. So let's do, oh, we're not ready for a poll yet. That's the next slide. All right. Ergonomic and injury risks. Improper storage can lead to repetitive strain and back injuries. Okay, that's for sure a problem. Staff reaching, lifting, shifting stack trays increases risk, for sure. Properly set up shelving reduces bending and improves workflow safety. So this picture here, are they wasting space? No, they are maximizing the cube. I would say 100%. You've got to be able to get your hands in there. You've got to be able to pull the inventory out. You've got to be able to lift it up. Really, according to Amy, you can't pull and drag. So you have to be able to lift up these trays somehow from the front. And then, I mean, it's imminent. You're going to have to drag a little bit, and then you have to get your hand underneath and pull out, and then put in a transport cart, and off the tray goes. But so ergonomics though here, this is most of these carts are about 72 inches high. That top shelf is, I don't know, probably 60 inches high. And that top tray is well beyond reach. So you've got to use a stool. You've got to get up there. There's no dust cover. It's a problem. You're probably going to be pulling that middle set or the middle tray or the bottom tray, and ergonomics just becomes a problem. The sweet spot is really right in the middle of your kind of the waist level, and really the only system out there that has you're pulling from your waist level every single time is a vertical lift machine. I spent 15 years selling and managing people that sold vertical lift machines in other industries. A vertical lift machine doesn't really have a place in a hospital unless you're going up 2 or 3 floors and you're building a new hospital, and you have that luxury of going through different departments, and you are literally building a small building. This vertical lift machine, they call them carousels, that literally go up 20, 30 feet high. Doesn't make sense to have a wide system, takes a very large footprint, but you're essentially pulling from waist level every single time. But every other system out there, you're going to be pulling from the bottom, or you're going to be pulling from the top, or you're going to be pulling from the middle. There's systems out there that have a pull-out drawer for bottom trays. That's a great option, as opposed to what we're looking at here, which is basically a bottom shelf. You're going to have to reach down, almost get on your knees. You're going to have to pull the trays out. It's imminent that you're going to be dragging these trays out. Then you got to have to stand back up, and then you're putting it onto a utility cart or a case cart or a transport cart. But I can't imagine, pulling after the morning huddle, pulling for 50 cases. Somebody's, pulling, I don't know, a couple hundred trays every single day, and going through this process, and it just ergonomically has got to be hard on the body. So a system like this is absolutely tough on employee safety. It's tough on everybody, whether you're a little bit shorter or taller. It's just a tough system to work with. You're maximizing the space. This system here doesn't really look like they are 8 inches off the floor. Looks like they're about 4 inches off the floor. This system is clearly out of compliance, according to Amy. I think we're good on this slide. This out of compliance. All right, back to the poll. How often does staff need to unstack trays to access items stored below during normal operations? How often does staff have to unstack trays. So basically that picture that we just looked at, you've got 3 trays high. How often do you have to pick the bottom one? How often do you have to pick the second one? Or are you just pulling from the top? It's like a first in, first out. Are you rarely or never pulling from the bottom? Are you occasionally pulling from the bottom or the middle? Or are you frequently pulling from the bottom or the middle? And are you like rearranging the trays, other trays to get to the tray, right? So you're just like constantly moving other trays to get to the tray that you actually want. That's handling, right? So you're touching these blue wraps that really shouldn't be touched more than a couple times or at a minimum if needed, but now you're touching the trays and you're handling. So again, this is a event related risk for every department out there that's got blue wraps. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time. Get organized here with my slides. Five, four, three, two, one. All right. Cool. So it's kind of like 80-20 rule again. It's 40-40-20, 40-40. It's 41, 44, 14. So the biggest vote getter is occasionally, okay? 44%. Perfect. Rarely, never moving trays, 40%. That's great. 14% frequently, okay? Those are pretty good numbers. I think that's fair. I don't know if that's, I would assume that's nationwide. We've got quite a bit of voters out there. So frequently, 14%, occasionally 45, and rarely, never 40%. That's a good number, 40%. It's actually a little bit of a surprise. I was thinking it was going to be at least occasionally or frequently. So that means departments are operating more efficiently than my original assumption. All right, so this is a sensitive topic here, but these are real issues that need to be addressed and talked about and worked through, okay? So you've got 2 different departments, you've got 2 different functions, one supporting the other, both need each other. Transfer of ownership happens of trays at some point in time. You know, ultimately it's under one roof, different 4 walls, one team, one mission. If there's issues, how are they addressed? What's the communication? Is it the blame game? We've got to figure out a way, but ultimately with improper storage, this downstream creates some friction at times between different departments. We don't want that. I think there's probably always going to be, in any business, some friction between different departments. I think that's just people in general. And we've got to find a way to minimize any type of wedge that can be created between different groups. And, you know, what happens? Surgical delays reduce confidence in SPD processes and performance. Storage-related sterility issues can erode confidence with SPD among peri-op staff, for sure. If uncorrected, okay, same issues every single day. It's like Groundhog Day. These issues can lead to long-term friction between departments. It's same issues, same stuff, different day, same stuff, different day, and it just is ongoing and it doesn't get addressed. So maybe there's a point of, you know, if there's a panic button, let's maybe push it. If you're finding yourself in a situation where we're, again, repeating the same problems every single day, maybe it's time for some action, and maybe it's time to be addressed. And that's where we start talking about our game plan. On average, third poll, here we go. On average, how many instrument trays must be reprocessed or re-sterilized each day due to reprocess failures, wrap tears, contamination, wet loads, debris, for whatever reason? A, none or rarely. Again, how many times do you reprocess every day? Is it none? 0 every single day. So 0 at the end of the week. Is it 3 trays per day? Okay, so maybe 21 times a week. If I don't know how many shifts, some operating 2 shifts, some 3 shifts. If you're operating 3 shifts and you're supporting 50, 75 ORs, or 25 ORs and 100 cases, I mean, you're going to have more instances because you're reprocessing. Okay. C, 5 trays per day. Okay. 6 trays per day. Option D. A, none. B, 3. C, 5. D, 6. You think about it. Okay, I'm going to think about the week. All right, did we have to reprocess 20? 15? Okay, divide that by 7 if you're operating 7 days a week. These are real numbers. Think about it. Make some assumptions. Let's pull some data. This is going to help you build your case when you want to make change to upper management to invest capital into your department. These are all kind of ROI type of questions that are going to help us, again, make a business plan and proposal, return on investment to say, hey, upper management, we need change. How are we going to make the change? Why do we need to make the change? Reprocessing could be an issue. Space is an issue. We were talking about it earlier. Handling could be an issue. What's the vote? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. None. Very rarely. Okay. 57%. You don't have to reprocess trays whatsoever. So none, rarely. 365. Maybe you're doing it 20 times a year. Not that many, or maybe it's less. Maybe it's 0. You guys are about as proficient as, rocket scientists. That's incredible. 60%. I think that's really good. I would love to see what your operation looks like. Maybe three trays a day. Okay. 30%, strong number. 5 trays per day, 5%. Okay. 6 or more, 7%. So kind of in that 5 to 6, around 12%. So these are real numbers. I was thinking more 3. Those are when we're out in the field. This is one of the first questions from a consultative perspective. We ask our customers in the SPD, how many times do you have to reprocess? Whether it's a tear or whether it's contamination or whatever the case may be, is it 3 times? That it seems to be kind of the sweet spot, 3 to 5. Less busy, less tears, more busy, more tears, more reprocessing. That's fair. Just the kind of the law of numbers. Appreciate everybody's engagement. All right, let's put together some numbers here. Cost of reprocessing and delays. There's a noticeable financial impact on the hospital's bottom line here, okay? Based on the data we pulled from a lot of different websites and ChatGPT and different AI algorithms, estimated cost to reprocess a single tray, and talking to customers, we ask. We've been doing this over the last couple of years, and this is kind of sharing some of our trade secrets here, taking one for the team. But what's your perspective? How many trays? How much do you think it costs? Okay, and this number is the chemicals and the time and labor in the SPD. Okay, on average, it's around $75 to $150 per reprocess. Okay, and that's just for SPD. So let's say we take somewhere in the middle, which I think is very conservative, $100. Okay, keep that in mind. In an OR, what's the time? What's the value of time in the OR? Okay, for delays, it's $50 to $100 per minute. That's just operation. That's everybody. That's the whole cost of operating. All the material, all the expensive robotics that you're using, the labor, the square footage, the surgeon. It's $100 a minute. It's $100 a minute. So we'll just take 75. That's on average. Okay, we could start putting together some numbers. Delays impact morale, trust, and patient outcomes. Sometimes you have to delay or reschedule a procedure. Maybe you have backups in the OR core, which is awesome. Good planning on your behalf. Sometimes you actually have to delay, and it could take a couple hours to delay a procedure, reprocess the set, get back after it. Nobody's happy. The surgeon's not happy. The hospital's not happy. But just like a bare minimum financial analysis, as an example, 3 process trays per day, which is pretty much one of the findings that you guys just gave us. 365 days per year. That's around 1,100 reprocessed trays per year at $100. That's fair. We're not even using OR costs and delays. It's purely SPD cost. It's 110 grand per year. Okay, after the second year of the same problem, okay, 220 grand. After 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Let's just look at it from a per year perspective. 1 year, 3 reprocessed trays per day, right? 110 grand. Let's roll into the cost of the OR, $100 per minute. I mean, we're talking about a return on investment of pretty quick if you fix all of these problems. So something to keep in mind is dollars and cents ROI. That's what gets the business to take action, because it's costing the business 110 grand. They could reinvest in a more efficient system or process that might cost $110,000. The return on investment is pretty much immediate. Okay. The friction between the two groups is immediate. The morale in the department becomes immediate. Turnover in a department and friction in general turnover is less, friction is less, people are happier, the contention is less. It's a win-win for everybody, okay? But there's dollars and cents tied to, this issue. All right. Why trays are improperly stored? Why are they? What's the reason? Lack of space, outdated systems. SPDs seem to be an afterthought. A lot of these departments were designed and built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000s. And all of a sudden, even today, it's an afterthought. We get involved in projects and it's like, oh, by the way, hey, let's get a storage vendor involved. And by that time, the footprint's already been designed. Now, all of a sudden, we have, a couple thousand square feet to work with without our input from the get-go. And it's just an afterthought. It is from an equipment standpoint and just the overall space standpoint, it becomes generally an afterthought. It's more like, okay, the lobby where patients initially walk in, it's OR suites, theaters. How many do we need? That's, the profit center of a hospital. We're the cost center in the SPD. It just seems to be an afterthought. But the equipment too is also an afterthought, where these departments are getting repurposed product from med-surg, supply floors, other departments over the years. And it's like this concoction of potpourri of different products. From, you've got wire shelving, plastic shelving, you've got some fixed shelving, you've got some of this over there, you've got some of that over there, you've got 5 shelves, 7 shelves over here, 3 over here. It's like this. There was never a plan. There was never a method. So it's not your fault. It's just kind of the years accumulated over the decades of, this is where we stand. That's why things are improperly stored. It's been out of your control, but maybe going forward, it is in your control because now we know. Underestimated growth in surgical volume, constant addition of new trays, new procedures, new surgeons, new technology, capital constraints, poor planning, insufficient labeling. That's why things get, they're not stored properly. Unawareness, right? Da Vinci robotic tips and arms. That's a big deal. Every department is in influx with these robotic tips and arms and cassettes, and they don't know how to store them. Okay. There's a proper way to store robotic tips. There are solutions out there, high density solutions out there that will help maintain the sterility, maximize the space, and make sure you're creating a nice home, a safe home for these robotic tips, okay, and arms. They need to be peel packed properly. They need to be stored properly. They need to be handled properly, so on and so forth. So that's like a huge, ongoing problem as we see it today. Conventional equipment, what's out there? Okay. Chrome, stainless steel, wire shelving is common. It's the most common. It's this product was designed in 1960, was rolled out in the food and beverage industry for food and beverage to store bulk items such as 12 packs of Coca-Cola and ketchup and large unit of measure items. And almost every system has 5 shelves. That was the spec. That was the design for restaurants. That was the design for retail shops and all these other industries. Hospitals adopted this product many, many years ago. And literally the spec today, and we at DSI sells some shelving. We sell a lot of it, actually. There's a time and place for it, but it's the spec is 5 shelves. And so customers, architects and planners, when they drop in a small box, a 24 by 60 wire shelf into a department, it will have 5 shelves, regardless of how many rigid containers you have, how many blue wraps, like they all have 5 shelves. Case in point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if you're gonna get wire shelves for your SPD, they should have 7, 8 minimum wire shelves per cart. And so you're not stacking, you're maximizing the cube, but even that is not the most ideal for blue wrap storage for trays and rigid trays, rigid containers as either. So it's a problem, but this is the spec that was set literally 60 years ago and it has not changed. Cleaning, hard to clean, causes wrap damage, lacks flexibility, repurposed shelving from another department, difficult to adjust, designed for large inventory. Okay, how do you clean them? It's like cleaning a barbecue grill. You've got to go down each little, wire rod or, take out the plastic liner, but you're ultimately to clean the whole thing, it's not easy. It's like, again, cleaning a barbecue grill. Or do you want to clean a flat top? A flat top, you've got the right tool, wipe it, you're done. You're not spending so much time regularly, right? According to HSPA, you should be cleaning your shelving regularly. I don't know how often that's happening. Our fourth pull, when managing loaner vendor trades, this is a pinch point as we see it today. What is the biggest ongoing challenge for your team? A, space limitations for storing trays prior to or after surgery, stacking or unsafe handling causing wrap tears, poor labeling. Okay, we're thinking loaners now. This seems to be kind of over there in the corner, or bottlenecks in check-in, inspection, return, workflow. Loaners, vendor trays seems to be a challenge area. That's one of the first areas that we look at to fix. And we need your votes. I got to jam through a bunch more slides. So that we need to get into this game plan. 3, 2, 1. All right, space, stacking, 36%, space, 54, poor labeling, cool, 0, bottlenecks, 10%, not a surprise. Market research states that we should plan for 6% growth on average going forward for instrumentation and tray storage, 6% every year. If you have 1,000 trays, that's 60 more next year. Compounding, that's probably 70 more the year after that. Compounding the year after that, 80 more trays, 6%. So 3 years from now, you better have more than 15% capacity for future growth. I mean, it's happening, it's here. It's this growth is happening. Some departments are leaning down, becoming more efficient, getting less instrumentation, maybe they're outsourcing their processing. Every department's a little bit different, but this is market research, 6% growth every single year. So again, 2 years from now, just raw numbers, 12%. We got a plan. Okay, I'm gonna skip that slide and come back to it. So game plan, what do? You gotta have goals. You gotta talk to your team. You've got to get input. You've got to get buy-in. You've got to determine what your needs are. What are our biggest needs? Looked based on our survey earlier today, it's space, some stacking, okay? Seems like organization is good. Labeling seems to be relatively good, but talk to your team, okay? Get their input, get their buy-in. Nobody wants to be forced on a new storage system thrown into their department, okay? Get their buy-in, talk to your leaders. Who's the squeakiest wheel, okay? Determine what your needs are, create a wish list, okay? Is it, again, storage capacity, clean, achieve compliance? Is it ROI? Is it lighting? Do we need better lighting? Is it safety, okay? So have a plan, talk to your team, put together some goals. get a site assessment, get a live on-site comprehensive storage assessment by an experienced storage professional, okay? There's plenty of companies out there that sell storage equipment, okay? There's plenty of them. Go on to LinkedIn, Google it, see who pops up, get a storage expert out there, lean on them, get an assessment, talk to them about your goals, talk to them about the growth plan, create a formal proposal, which is provided by the storage expert, okay? They do the heavy lifting. You've got to lean on them. They're the storage experts. You give them your goals and they need to take the ball and run with it, okay? That is so important. Have a plan. What are our goals? Compliance, stacking, space, workflow, labeling, all this good stuff, and have a plan and get a site assessment. They're free. Get somebody out there. This is what they do. Focus on your day job. Have the professional consultant give their opinion, do their assessment, come up with, basically do an audit, count the trays, see what the workflow looks like, come back and present a proposal. Okay. The importance of vendor collaboration. Okay. Go see the vendor's product in action. Okay. Go down the street, wherever the vendor says they've got a local install, go see it, get a free trial, touch it, feel it, see what they're going to propose, drive accountability, engage with the rep. People do business with people. If you don't like the person, don't do business with them, even if their storage system is incredible, okay? Because it's a partnership. These are big projects. Even if it's a small little area, you've got to like your rep, okay? Drive accountability. Get them to come out, do their proposal, validate the layout, understand the workflow, have an opinion on the workflow. Either you agree, disagree, have them make changes, but you've got to drive accountability. It's a partnership, and let them do their job and focus on your job, because that's not your job, is to do this whole big project and understand all these little elements, but they need your input, okay? Free trials, go see the product in action. Okay. Game plan. What are the requirements? We've talked about it. Storage clearance, 8 inches off the floor, 18-inch clearance from the ceiling and sprinklers top shelf, 2-inch minimum according to OSHA from the walls, and aisles at a minimum 36 inches wide, okay? You need to be able to work up and down your aisles. According to OSHA, don't block exit doors, fire extinguishers, drains, and floors. So the storage consultant should know this. You should know it. These are the standards. Materials, okay? We're talking about getting some new equipment in here. What kind of materials? There's a lot of different materials. There's plastics, there's stainless steel, there's chrome, there's aluminum, all sorts of good stuff. Avoid shelving with exposed metal edges. Sharp points can tear wraps. Use rounded coated polymer shelving. There's antimicrobial products out there. Know the product that you want. Kind of steer clear of what you don't want. In a very efficient department, you're going to have a collection of high density tray storage, some wire shelving, probably for bulk items, for packs and some other bulk items, and then some pegboard stuff. You need workstations, so on and so forth. But as it relates to trays, you've got to just understand the materials being sold to you and procured by you and your hospital. Shelving accessories, dust cover. There's products out there that have pull-out drawers, so you have access to the rigid container front handle and back handle, right? So you think of those heavier trays, nice to be able to just pull the drawer out, have access to the front handle and back handle, so you're not dragging that tray across the shelf, and then all of a sudden it falls, and then it falls on the ground, or it hits your shin, or hits your knee, or whatever. So having access to both handles is, I think, very important from an ergonomic perspective. There's a lot of different accessories out there, labeling accessories. So kind of have an idea of what you want and ask the vendor what they have. Okay. It's a partnership. You've got to ask questions. Some of them have a lot of accessories. Some of them don't have any accessories. Labeling. Okay. It's like street signs. If you don't have street signs when you're driving around a neighborhood, yeah, Google Maps is great. You don't have Google Maps in your department, you've got to have signage. Okay. You've got to have signs. You've got new employees coming in. You've got, after the huddle, you're pulling cases. You've got to know where to find stuff, when to find it, down certain rows. You've got sectional, you've got down to the compartment, you've got down to the row. You've got it, you could custom design it based on service line. You've got color coding. There's so many good options out there, but it just makes the department that much more beautiful and just a happier place to work in when you can find the stuff that you want to find. And color coding it makes it a great environment. And I think it just makes it super professional, and there's great options out there. Just talk to your storage consultant. Tracks, floor tracks, top tracks, pros and cons. This is the last thing that you want to do in your department if you're space constraint, and that's like your biggest priority. Track system, pros and cons. Top track, they bind. Okay, it's a manual that you can't hand crank. You have to push and pull. You have to wait for people to get out of the aisle if you're using a top track or a bottom track. So if speed is not the most important and space is, use a track system. There's a lot of companies that have tracks. Again, there's a top track and bottom track. For heavier trays, like what we're talking about here, a track system puts a lot of heavy load. You know, gravity pulls down, so a bottom track makes sense. Downfall, it's a trip hazard. You could trip potentially over the rail system. Okay, so again, there's pros and cons to each system: top track, bottom track, hand crank, manual, infection control, binding. It's a space saver, but then there's downstream negatives. Okay, speed and efficiency of unstacked storage, faster retrieval and return of trays, easier to label in particular shelf lost as a home for a specific tray, less handling, fewer errors and less wasted time. No need to remove other trays to access desired tray. Picking accuracy will get better. Saves space equals less walking, saves time, saves money. Okay, that sounds like a pretty compelling value proposition for upper management. Okay, we think of Tetris. You got to maximize the cube. You've got to maximize the cube. Everybody knows the game Tetris. If you don't, it's a great game. People dream about it, and there's storage systems out there that really do maximize your ability to get points. How do you get points in Tetris? It's you get solid lines on the bottom. How do you get solid lines? You've got to maximize the space, and even if you waste one cube space, you don't get that point. Okay, so there's products out there. It's kind of like a Tetris effect. You got to maximize the cube, whatever that looks like. If it's a small blue wrap, you want a small compartment. If it's a big blue wrap, you want a big compartment. You don't want like a fixed wire shelf that has a big compartment for a small blue wrap. You're not going to gain points. Okay, that's a fixed mindset. That's an old school mindset. And the system itself doesn't allow you to grow, doesn't allow you to get points. So you're handicapped in how you operate in your department. The system will not allow you to maximize the efficiencies in your department. That's basically the bottom line. Is you've got to do it, or if you're going to do it, you've got to do it organically. It's too expensive to renovate. Do it organically. Invest in more efficient storage equipment to maximize your space. Okay, there's systems out there that allow you to adjust in 1-inch increments without having to flip the cart over, take all the contents out, take all the shelves out, just so you can add a couple more shelves or adjust the shelves. Literally, there's systems out there that you can take the runner off and move it up without a tool, literally within 15 seconds, and adjust so you can maximize the blue wrap by literally increments of 1 inch. Okay, so there's great systems out there that allow you for greater flexibility so you can maximize your storage capacity to handle that 6% growth rate year on year. All right. Last poll. When your department is clean, well lit, and organized, which of the following outcomes do you notice most? I feel less stressed, more focused. Okay. I feel valued and supported by leadership when your area is clean, well lit, and organized. I feel valued by leadership. I feel valued by the hospital. I'm not working in a cluttered space that is just driving you crazy. It's organized, it's clean, it's efficient. I feel safer and more confident in my work. C. D, I feel more motivated and energized. Okay. 4 options. Stress reliever, supported by leadership. I feel safer and I'm more confident in my work environment. Okay. It's kind of employee retention too, is almost the bottom line here. I feel more motivated and energized to go to work. It's not a dreary, drab, dark environment. What's your take? All right, across the board, 40% I feel safer. I mean, employee safety, huge. You guys, it's a tough work environment. Safety's at the utmost. Incredible. Okay, I feel less stressed. I mean, I want to work in that space. Safer, less stressed. Brilliant. I feel more motivated and energized. I love that one, right? I mean, checks all the boxes. I feel more energized. I want to go to work. I actually like going to work. Employee retention, employee safety. I feel less stressed, more focused. Sounds like a pretty brilliant work environment. And then I feel valued and supported by leadership. Only 3%. I love it. If I work in a tough environment and then all of a sudden a company comes in and they make a change in your department, I mean, in a lot of respects, I'm like, yes, finally the hospital gets it. They value us. They know that the SPD is super critical to the functioning of our hospital. So that's my vote, is I feel supported by my upper management. So I love the numbers. I love everybody's feedback. Thank you so much for everybody's participation. I'm going to throw it back to you guys, to Bobby, any open Q&A. We've got 4 minutes. These are some of our references that we pulled from our rule book, and we're good to go. So back to Bobby.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I appreciate it. Really interesting stuff as you walk through the basics of sterile storage compliance. Very important considerations for us to think through. The only question that that I wanted to pitch your way had to do with the optimization part of it. So you talked about doing an assessment, and I know you have some experience with this personally. So wanted to find out, like, what does that assessment look like? Like, what kind of activities are you going through, and what's the outcome somebody can expect to improve? Like, are we talking, maybe 5% improvement from an assessment, worst to best, or much better than that?
So are we talking about space optimization, or are we talking about time?
Specific to like how to organize a space and utilize it better? Like what kind of results? Well, sure, yeah, but yeah,
every department's different. Some of them are rough. Some of them are very efficient. Sometimes there's only 10 or 15% space savings. Sometimes it's 30, 40, 50% space savings. Just depends on how optimized they currently are. But a consultant goes out, looks at the space, talks about, to the customer about their goals. And it's like, okay, they might not even mention space, but during our assessment, we find that space is a problem and there could be a major space savings. But just generally, there's systems out there that can save a customer just generally around 25% space savings. Okay. The stacking is another big driver. Obviously, employee safety is a big driver. So in terms of like space optimization, it's on average around 25%. Again, every department is a little bit different. Some of them are just stacked to the brim, where you see there's literally no space savings that they can get, but the other savings of not stacking, of employee safety are gained. And so maybe there's zero space savings, but they get other benefits by some of the other elements of the different functioning and the design of the system. So it just depends on each department and each case and where their priorities are and kind of how they currently operate. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was grateful in your game plan section, that last section of the presentation, that you included those considerations around vendor partners and not just taking a shipment of a product and trying your best with it, but like really do some due diligence on being thoughtful about who we're going to partner with, what we're going to use, maybe see what it looks like out in the field, have a good assessment done. I've lived through a department renovation that we did not do a good job with that, and then years later was cursing the day that we did not do our due diligence on sterile storage. So real important stuff. All right, well, we're right at the top of our hour here for this presentation today. Oh, did you? That's right. Don't hit Ian up if you wanted DSI Scrub Bear. If you have some questions about sterile storage, we didn't get to all the ones that were sent in from the Ask a Question tool. I'd encourage you to go ahead and connect with Ian. His contact information you can find in the speaker bio tool on your screen. Connect with him there on LinkedIn or by email. I'm sure he'd love to continue to talk with you about how to optimize storage, either from a compliance standpoint or from a space perspective. If you are interested in the CE certificate for today's session, you can find that in the downloadable resources tool. And with that, we're going to take a brief 10-minute break before we join you again for our next session, our concluding one here in TreyX. Thanks for joining us. And Ian, one more time, thanks for the great presentation today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.